What's up, guys and girls? It's good to see you tonight on the Speak and See Show. I ask you like and subscribe and click that notification button. So when I get information out, you can get information in. It's been a long time since I've put a video up. Not long, but 4 or 5 days, which is pretty long for me not having a video up. And I'd like to apologize if you all were missing my beautiful face. I'm back. I have been very, very busy. Family issues, COVID matters related to family members that are in the hospital, stuff like that. Important things. Kids' birthday parties. My youngest one turned 6 yesterday. Happy birthday, Jonathan. And helping some family matters out with some legal work up north. But anyway, there really hasn't been much to talk about anyway, as far as your EIDL grants go and the SBA and the EIDL loans and all that stuff. And I've been making some phone calls to Congress on occasion for individuals that have needed my help with that. And we have been seeing major progress with people getting their loans right now. But we haven't been seeing any major progress with the EIDL grants. However, something that has been the same will be staying the same. And this is breaking news for just the USA in general, as far as the SBA and our EIDL loans and grants. Remember the money that they were going to be taking away out of the EIDL program, grant program, and loan program to give to the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Now, this is bad news for restaurants who wanted that money to come forth out of the SBA, EIDL grants, and put into the SBA for Restaurant Revitalization Fund. This is bad news for them because if this bill would have been passed, the RRF was in there for another $60 billion. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund would have got their money pretty much by the end of October. It would have been implemented and put into effect. However, with Joe Manchin just coming out and putting a statement out saying he's definitely not supporting this bill, he just cannot get behind this $3.5 trillion bill. This means that it's dead. It's a done deal. It's not going to happen, and the SBA grants, EIDL grants, stay the same. So if the policy map could be removed now, or if S513, if for some crazy reason Rosen or Cornyn said, hey, I'm bringing a bill, I wanted to call forth this bill and get a vote on this today, they could do that. They could literally go to the floor tomorrow and say, hey, S513, I'm putting this up on the table. I'd like to take a vote. And if there were any objections, then we'd have to wait until, whoever objected spoke their case about it, and it would take a little bit more time. But if there were no objections to it, then S513 could get passed, and you could get your EIDL grants, the $10,000 EIDL grants, if S513 would hit the floor. Now, they haven't said anything about it. No Cornyn, no Rosen, no Schumer, no anybody has mentioned anything about this S513 that's floating out there in Congress right now saying, let's go ahead and it would take the policy map and literally that would change. Actually, that wouldn't change. If the policy map would stay there and that SBA grant for those individuals alone would get that money. However, a new funding would come forth for $20 billion to go out and then reallocate if needed. If more was needed, be reallocated and more funds would come in. But a new bill would come out saying, look, this bill is for those people who put their filed for a $10,000 EIDL grant in the CARES Act, didn't get it, or only got a portion of it. They would get the rest of it, regardless of size or location or loss of income. So it's possible that could happen. Let me go over real quick what Joe Manchin said today, which pretty much confirms what we were thinking, that whether or not Joe Manchin was going to get behind this or not. So let me get my head out of the way. There we go. And we're looking over here. I'm going to start reading where Joe Manchin, what Joe Manchin had said. He said, every member of Congress has a solemn duty to vote for what they believe is best for the country and the American people, not their party. Do we understand that, man? I mean, do people get that? I really appreciate Joe Manchin right now. I've really not been a big fan of his in the past, but for him saying, look, we need to vote for the American people, not for our party, just in particular, that right there, if all of Congress or the Senate or politicians in particular would think that way, we would get a lot more things done right in this country. Anyway, he said, let me go keep on reading here. I kind of got excited about that. I really like that idea where people can think independently, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Because I think that's how most Americans think. They think independently. Like, they're not whether I'm a Republican or whether I'm a Democrat. If it's a good idea, do it. If it's not, then don't. Anyway, every member of Congress has a solemn duty to vote for what they believe is best for the country and the American people, not their party, Manchin said. Respectfully, as I have said for months, I can't support $3.5 trillion more in spending when we have already spent $5.4 trillion since last March. At some point, all of us, regardless of party, must ask a simple question: how much is enough? What I have made clear to President and Democratic leaders is that spending trillions more on a new and expanded government programs when we can't even pay for the essential social programs like Social Security and Medicare is the definition of fiscal insanity. Wow, that hits it right on the head. Suggesting that spending trillions more will not have an impact on inflation ignores the everyday reality that America's families continue to pay an unavoidable inflation tax. So he is really literally coming out to the press saying, I am not on board. And he goes on saying, proposing a historic expansion of social programs while ignoring the fact we are not in a recession and that millions of jobs remain open will only feed dysfunction that we could weaken our economic recovery. This is the shared reality we all know and face. And this is the reality that we must shape the future decisions that we as elected leaders must take. He goes on to say in his statement, our tax code should be reformed to fix the flaws of the 2017 tax bill and to ensure everyone pays their fair share, but it should not weaken our global competitiveness or ability of millions of small businesses to compete with the Amazons of the world. Thank you. Manchin said, overall, the amount we spend now must be balanced with what we need and can afford, not designed to re-engineer the social and economic fabric of this nation or vengefully tax for the sake of wishful spending. Mind you guys, this is a Democrat. This is a Democrat talking, and he's talking right now like he's not a Republican, because he just went off on right here he goes off on Trump's bill, or his tax bill of 2017. So he's not talking as a Republican either. He's saying both of it's screwed up, but we can't screw it up anymore. So he goes on to say, while I'm hopeful that common ground can be found that would result in another historic investment in our nation, I cannot and will not support trillions in spending or an all or nothing approach that ignores the brutal fiscal reality our nation faces. Manchin said, there's a better way, and I believe we can find it if we're willing to continue to negotiate in good faith. If there's one final lesson that will continue to guide me in this difficult debate ahead, is this: America is a great nation, but great nations throughout history have been weakened by careless spending and bad policies. Now more than ever, we must work together to avoid the fatal mistakes so that we may fulfill our greatest responsibility as elected leaders and pass on a better America to the next generation. Further complication, the issue is another piece. Okay, so he goes, that's pretty much all of what he said there. And so basically he's come around, and here's Manchin, an all-out Democrat, pretty much saying if the Senate got his vote, along with Sinema, who seems to be sliding into a vote of a yes on this, if they got his vote, they would change. It would come forth. The EIDL grant money would be gone, and we wouldn't be able to see that in the way of form of reallocating it and reappropriating legislation. They could do that, reappropriate the legislation, remove the policy map. If they just went to the floor and said, okay, we need to remove the policy map in legislation, or had a business committee and they all agreed to remove the legislation, they brought it to the floor the next day, they could do it. It would be gone. Policy map would be gone. But they haven't done that. So we're just hoping right now, this buys us a little more time to get them on board with the policy map removal. So we need to concentrate on that together as small businesses who are really interested in getting this $10,000 that they promised us and really need it. If we can do that together, I'm sure we can accomplish it, because we've accomplished up to this point to where we have gotten the money. We've seen the money being given to millions of Americans already, the loans and the grants being put forth through another year. And if we can still keep on trying to push this through till the end of the year, we may be able to do this together. So guys, I encourage you all to contact your congressmen and senators. Find them on Twitter, find them on YouTube, or whatever you need to do. Call them up. You can go to congress.gov, find them in there, and contact your Congress and your local district congressmen and women, and email them, call them, and say, look, we need our EIDL grants. They need to remove that policy map. It's racist. It's prejudice. It leaves me out of receiving the grant that they promised us. Well, guys, thanks for watching. I want to wish you all a good week, and it's good to see you back. I hope the rest of your week goes well. I missed you all. Love you all. And somebody say, hey, I want my 10K.